Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. I'm Natalie Mitchell. Tonight's episode features both a missing persons and a murder case. First, the murder of Darrin Simmons, a popular, well-liked man in his community. And later, Beau walks out the front door of his parents' home, never to return. The Crime Stoppers team headed to Compton to get more details on the murder of Darrin Simmons.
I'm Detective Tim O'Quinn. I'm with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I work at the Homicide Bureau.
Okay.
Been working homicide for about 6 years and been a deputy for about 28.
And what neighborhood are we in right now?
This is actually an older section of Compton,
Okay.
and it plays into this particular murder case because most people have lived in this neighborhood for 20, 30 years or longer. They all know each other. You see the houses look older, and most people have owned them for that period of time. Our victim in this case was Darrin Simmons, who lived in this neighborhood, and Darrin was very popular and known by the people here. He would have multiple parties almost every weekend, I'm told. His house was special in that he had converted the rear part of his house into a full bar, very well laid out with seating areas and so forth, even to the point there had been recent additions of dancer poles, exotic dancers, and I'm sure you can imagine that made him very popular amongst the neighbors. He was well known even beyond this neighborhood. The bar was called the Patron Palace, and I'm told very well known amongst the community. But he was also very giving, I'm told. He would give the shirt off his back to folks and was that type of personality as well.
Now, the first thing I want to ask you is, obviously this is a terrible tragedy to happen to the family, but can you tell us some good things about Darrin, some things, fond memories perhaps?
Well, Darrin was a very caring person. He was caring. He gave to everybody.
This is the most devastating thing I've ever had to go through in my lifetime. And he was my only child, and that's even more devastating. And he was very close to his grandmother. And at the same time, when he passed away, I was taking care of her. She had Alzheimer's. She was bedridden. So he would come every day and help me with her. And it's just been one traumatic thing after another. So if anybody, and I know somebody here, out here in this community right here, knows something, and they need to come forward and bring justice to our family. Because you know, everybody here knows he was a good guy, and he had a very good heart. And everybody loved him, I thought, and at least they act like they did. So I would appreciate it very much if anybody have any information that they would come forward and tell us.
This case occurred on what date?
This was on May the 27th, 2010, so we're going back about 5.5 years. One of the reasons we're revisiting a case that's of that age is because of how familiar Darrin was to the community. People to this day still post on certain internet postings about Darrin. We truly believe that people in this neighborhood right here have information or know information about who killed Darrin.
Right.
They may have been out of fear or otherwise afraid to tell us or to call it in. They can do that anonymously. Our point right now today is that this is the time.
Yeah.
We would like to get this case solved, and we'd like people to come forward and tell us who it was. This is actually Poplar Street, and the house here on the left, 1010 West Poplar, is the house that Darrin lived in almost 6 years ago.
Darrin was a very well-loved man in the community, a good son, a good friend. What do you think happened on May 27, 2010?
I believe someone set him up. May have planned it for a while, may have just all of a sudden did it, took advantage of his kindness as a good person, and took his life.
Because if they had asked him for anything, he would have given it to them. They didn't have to kill him. He would have taken the shirt off his back and given it to them if they asked him for it. So
He was a very generous man.
Very generous. He's the only child, so he was free-hearted, and he liked people. So, you know, he would always do whatever he could for people. And
it's a tragedy.
It actually was a lady out here the day he was murdered saying she don't know what she's going to do because he pays her electricity bill.
On May 27, 2010, when first responders arrived, what did they find?
Unfortunately, I would call it a typical scene sometimes that we respond to. He was laying in a pool of blood. There were multiple gun casings, empty casings that were around the floor. It all occurred inside in the living room, and paramedics responded right away. He was found pretty much right away, right after it happened. Persons had seen his screen door open and realized this is not typical of Darrin. So they, paramedics responded, pronounced him almost right away. He was deceased at the scene.
We know somebody knows something, maybe more than one person.
Beau was so loving and so happy all the time, and I miss him a lot.
Beau Heller was last seen leaving his residence here.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. Obviously, this came to a huge shock to both of you and the whole community because he was so well loved. So can you tell us a little bit about that feeling and the realization that he was gone?
It was very devastating to know that somebody would do that, let alone with him being so kind and so giving and kind-hearted, just always there for everybody, always worried about everybody else's worries. It was devastating to our family.
Do you mind describing what weapon was used for the death of Darrin Simmons?
Darrin was killed with his handgun, multiple rounds fired. He was hit multiple times, mostly in the upper torso. He was actually pronounced deceased right there on his living room floor. The men that did this, were the killers of Darrin, were observed leaving, which is unusual in that oftentimes we'll get suspect information we can follow up on. The leads went cold very quickly in this case. Perhaps no one wanted to talk, but there were two male blacks involved who came to Darrin's door, were led in by Darrin, and ended up shooting him and killing him on his living room floor. The first was a male black about 20 to 25 years old. He was described as about 5'9" in height, about 160 to 170 pounds with a medium build. And a very distinct description of this person, he had an afro, which was described as very wild or unkept type afro. Whereas the second male who came in the door also was a male black about 25 to 30 years old, about 5'7" and thinner, about 150 pounds, thin build, muscular, short hair, and described as having a clean-cut appearance. And so those were two descriptors.
And can you give us a description of the vehicle of the potential suspects?
Sure, these guys were seen exiting Darrin's house, not really running but moving fast. One of them in fact had a large cardboard box over his shoulder. Whether it was marijuana or what it was, we don't know. But the vehicle they got into was described as an older, even called beat up, 1980s Nissan or Toyota four-door sedan. Light blue in color. Descriptive was the paint was coming off, so it had patches where there was no paint. And they drove off. We don't know. We heard word that maybe they were from this area, but we also heard that maybe they came from the Inland Empire, Riverside, San Bernardino area. So we're looking for any information about that car and those two guys.
What do you miss most about Darrin?
I miss that my daughter does not have a father, and that my friend is gone for good. He was caring. He gave to everybody, and for someone to take his life, we need your help to bring this to justice. We know somebody knows something, maybe more than one person. You can remain anonymous, but please come forward and bring this to justice.
I think about it every day. It hasn't left yet. You know, it's devastating. The murder that day coming around here and seeing my son land on the floor. It was awful. Anybody that goes through this, it's just devastating.
And to know that it's somebody
that we
around
might know,
here.
that we might even know. Apparently, he knew him. I might know him myself, and that's even more devastating. You know, to think that they're walking around free. So if anybody, and I know somebody here, out here in this community right here, knows something, and they need to come forward and bring justice to our family, because you know everybody here knows he was a good guy, and he had a very good heart, and everybody loved him, I thought, and at least they act like they did. So I would appreciate it very much if anybody have any information that they would come forward and tell us. Call Crime Stoppers or the LA Sheriff Department.
Thank you so much for sharing such a painful memory with all of us. Now it's your turn, Los Angeles. Please help us solve the murder of Darrin Simmons. If you know anything that might help the detectives solve this case, please call Crime Stoppers. Remember, you can remain anonymous. So this was a missing persons case that is now being treated like a homicide.
It was initially a missing person case, and we're now treating it as a murder.
Crime Stoppers case file update. Thanks to your help, we now have a suspect in custody for the murder of Arthur Palmer. Thank you, Southern California. Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. Now we head to the town of Duarte to meet with Detective Aguilar and learn more about the day Beau Heller went missing. Here we are with Detective Aguilera discussing the Beau Heller case. Can you tell us a little bit about that case?
Sure. Beau Heller was 28 years old at the time of his disappearance, which was January 5th of 2005. He was last seen at home here in the city of Duarte by his mom and dad, and left the house at about 11 o'clock at night, and he was never seen from or heard from again. About a month after his disappearance, his parents reported him as a missing person because they hadn't heard from him, hadn't seen him, and all the friends that they knew that he hung out with hadn't heard from him as well.
Here we are with Beau Heller's siblings, Jenner and Holiday. Can you please tell us a little bit about Beau?
He was always outgoing, always funny, kind of the class clown. He was definitely fun to grow up with, and never a dull moment with Beau.
He was a good older brother.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And Holiday?
I was the oldest and about 7 years older than Beau, so he was my stinky little brother. But as I got older, you know, he was a wonderful uncle to my son and my girls. And at my son's birthday parties, he'd dress up like Spider-Man. He was so cute. Sorry. And these two would do a puppet show, and Beau was so loving and so happy all the time, and I miss him a lot. Sorry.
So before this incident, what do we know about Beau Heller?
Beau Heller comes from a really nice family with roots deep here in the city of Duarte. Mom and dad are very active in the community. Mom is an author. Beau was an athlete at Duarte High School, captain of the swim team. He was back living at home at the time. Recently separated from his wife. But overall, it's a really good kid. Franklin came from a really great family, very nice people.
It was always fun, happy, up. He had a lot of friends. Everybody in school liked him. His teachers liked him. And he played sports all through Duarte High School. He was captain of the football team, captain of the swim team. He was on the wrestling team. And so he was always very busy. I don't know why something like this would happen to somebody that didn't have any enemies. So all I can say is, you know, we certainly miss him, and we miss all that, his silliness and his happiness. He was always surfing or playing sports or riding his bike. He used to like to go over to the river and ride his bike there. And we took our kids camping all their lives, and he loved that too.
I had a job that allowed me to have time to spend with my boys, especially. And we would go surfing, and I would drive them after work down to Seal Beach and Huntington Beach and watch them surf for hours. And I actually have probably, you know, hundreds of hours of video that I've shot of them surfing over the years. We spent a lot of quality time, and unfortunately I had a job that I had some freedom. So, you know, we just palled around and did a lot of things, and I miss that.
At the time he, quote, disappeared, he was going to Citrus College and had gotten his badge for working on the newspaper, and he seemed to be looking forward to that. So we had high hopes that he was going to be doing well.
On January 29th, 2005, Beau Heller was last seen leaving his residence here in the city of Duarte. He left the house about 11 o'clock and was last seen by his mom and dad, and wasn't heard from or seen from anybody for about a month. A month went by when they notified the local sheriff station that he was a missing person. It was unusual for him not to call, not to be seen come here at the house where he was living at the time. Friends of Beau Heller hadn't seen him or heard from him in that month that he was gone, so they decided to report him as a missing person. We fast forward to the year 2013, the middle of the year. Beau Heller's mother, Claudia, was approached by a witness who talked in detail about Beau being murdered. And this person discussed with Claudia that basically Beau was murdered the night he disappeared. He went to a local residence, which is close to home, got in some type of altercation with either one or two suspects, and was killed during that altercation. His body was dumped somewhere in the area and has not been recovered since.
Thank you. So this was a missing persons case that is now being treated like a homicide.
It was initially a missing person case, and we're now treating it as a murder. The information that this person provided to the family did prove to be credible.
It's a small town, and we know that there are people that know what happened.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. With so little clues and evidence in this case, detectives really need your help. If you have any information on the disappearance or murder of Beau Heller, please contact Crime Stoppers. When he went missing, what first came to mind, or how did that affect your family?
Well, he was living at home at the time, and he was older, and he had his friends and things that he liked to do. So I think when he first disappeared, there was just the assumption that he would be back after a few days and a week had passed. My parents had communicated to me and kind of let it be known that they were worried about him and they hadn't seen him in a few days. And he was always so outgoing and personable, and he had a lot of friends, friends we knew, friends we didn't know, but it was really easy to spot him, and so it really was concerning to us when we hadn't heard anything from anyone. We spent a lot of time contacting all of the friends that we were aware of, and nobody had seen him, and he just, like I said, he had so much personality and just knew so many people, and it was really recognizable within the community that it was definitely concerning for us to find out that no one had seen him or heard from him in quite some time.
So in 2013, when this person came forward with more information, is there any reason as to why this person waited that long to bring forward information?
We don't know why this person waited that long, but the information that this person provided to the family did prove to be credible. We've heard from several sources since our investigation over the last couple of years that have pretty much given the same story, the same circumstances as to what happened at the time of the incident, as well as what happened with the body and how he was discarded.
Great, so we're just looking for more information from people that might have some tips or information to help us put somebody behind bars.
Yeah, we are. We're looking for more information, and obviously we're looking to bring closure to the family, hopefully to recover his body, and give him some answers as to what happened the night he was killed.
When I first heard that Beau was missing, when he didn't come home, people said, well, he may have gone off somewhere. And I knew that couldn't be true. Something happened to him, or he would be home. He always came home. And so we knew something happened. And there were a lot of rumblings around Duarte. It's a small town. And we know that there are people that know what happened. And maybe they're afraid to tell. Maybe they were there. They don't want to be considered part of it. But if you know what happened and you don't say something, you're as bad as the people who did it. Mm-hmm. And you have to know the kind of anguish the family goes through. And true, we can't bring Beau back, but we want justice for him, and that's about all we can do now, is the happy memories and find out what happened for our own curiosity, but also for him. And so we're asking the community, the people we went to school with, the people in the neighborhood, the people in the know, to come forward and tell what happened.
So what can our viewers at home do to help solve this case?
Well, we're looking for any tips. Any information is valuable to us. We're hoping someone will view this show and know something about the case, know the Heller family, spoke to somebody that either witnessed it or has heard about it, and we're looking to speak to anybody we can and develop as much information we can as to what happened that night and where his body was discarded as well. So any information is valuable.
If you have any information on either of tonight's cases, please contact Crime Stoppers or the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Remember, you can remain anonymous. Thank you for watching. For Crime Stoppers, I'm Natalie Mitchell. Good night. For more on these cases, go to lacrimestoppers.org.